Hello, this is Big Time for Africa.
Felt a need to go beyond dealing with the individual patient. So I took a master's degree in public health so that my work can actually impact the community rather than just the individual patient. I loved it so much. I took a PhD in public health and epidemiology again. And ever since then, I've focused a lot of my work. I'm a professor of surgery at WashU, but I've focused a lot of my work on cancer prevention within the communities. My work focuses on breast cancer prevention, especially in young women, and also on colorectal cancer prevention. So I think to set the tone going, you need to identify what you're good at, what you're passionate about, and what your strengths are. And by the time you start bringing all those together, that'll keep giving you an inkling of what you should probably think of doing. And with advice and support from family members and friends who can also help you harness your skills, then you begin to, okay, this is something I can actually do. This is something I can succeed in. And this is something I would enjoy doing for the rest of my life, because that is very crucial.
That was wonderful. I agree with that. Whatever field you're interested in going into, you need to make sure that you can wake up every morning and go to that job. I'm in social services, so my 9 to 5, I work with homeless and at-risk youth. And I came to the States when I was 1, and so I was first generation immigrant in my family. And in the early 90s, in the 90s, there really wasn't a whole lot of other immigrant kids that I grew up around. And so it developed a passion in me to go into social services and mental health because a lot of times I would kind of be left out from activities. It kind of took me a while to kind of find my way. And so I never wanted anyone else to feel left out. I never, socially it was hard growing up in the States, and then my parents were, also new to the States. So for lack of a better word, sometimes we clashed on what I should be doing and how I should be doing. So I decided to kind of go into social services because I wanted to help people, and I wanted to be what I didn't have. And I had wonderful parents, but as far as like having a mentor or just even socially looking for someone who kind of understood my position, I didn't have that. And so I decided to go into social services or the helping industry so that I could help other people solve their problems, help other people feel confident about themselves. And it was interesting. I did a bachelor's in psychology, and I was good in math and science, and my parents urged me to go into engineering and or medicine. And after a lot of conversations, we kind of realized, we settled with the fact that I'd have to go to get a master's if I pursued psychology. But it was good because I was able to find my way. And I found a passion in helping other people, especially immigrant populations, because I understand that struggle. I know what it was like to grow up cross-culturally, I guess you could say. So when I came home, it was like you're walking into another country, you're walking into Zambia. And then when you walk out of the door, you're walking into America. So I had to learn the balance of that. But I would never change that experience for the world. I wouldn't change it. And so that's what led me into the helping industry. And I love young people. My husband and I are youth pastors at our church. And I pursued a master's in divinity, which is basically really trying to understand the Bible and God's word. And so I use that to help other people find their purpose and find their strengths so that you can have a complete life.
Thank you. My name is Sebastian. I came to this country as an F1 student. Believe it or not, I came here on a basketball scholarship. When I got admitted into the school, they said I was a little bit too old and I didn't have the size that they wanted, but I was quick. So that's something they needed. But I had a scholarship, so I kept it. But I went to University of Wyoming, if you know where Wyoming is. I was there for about 4 years. But since I wasn't paying for school, I managed to stay there. But I had a passion, I had a passion. I already wanted to work with people, and I wanted to be a doctor without taking any science subject. I came to find out that is not possible. So for you to be a doctor without taking any science subject was a little bit difficult. But now, this is one thing that I think is very important for anybody at your age to know. The healthcare has expanded at itself. You can participate in healthcare at any level. Now, what I do, I'm more in what we call EMR, electronic medical records. It's where healthcare has expanded that it doesn't matter what industry you're in. If you want to feature in healthcare, you'll feature in whether you're in finance, whatever industry that you're in. If you come into healthcare now, there's space for everybody to fit in. What does that mean? That's what I do makes it easy for this doctor to be able to attend to the patient at an efficient time, it's not expensive. So that's what I do. So I'm still able to treat patients through a doctor, through electronic medical records. And that is how you participate in healthcare right now. There's space for everybody. When we talk about virtual healthcare, telemedicine, all this stuff that you hear now, it comes through IT and other areas that you feature in. And that is how you feature in healthcare. And I'm not trying to say anything about Mercy, but Mercy Hospital offers all these spaces if you want to participate, especially in technology in Mercy. I mean, they give you an opportunity. No matter where you start, you'll always have a space to feature in healthcare and be able to help. I love sports and I love working with Vitendo for Africa because that's how I reach most of the people that I work with. And I'm able to start projects even with young people here. Nganga is here. Work projects together that we see to completion, 8 one-year project with them that we're able to complete and to develop and complete and deliver those projects. It's an honor to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Dr. Kike Olifade. One thing I always do in my office, a lot of times patients will come and their grandchildren will be with them. And I pay attention to them because children can very early on know exactly what they want to do. I've always wanted to be a physician since I was in 2nd grade. I immigrated, forced immigration by my father from Nigeria. My dad is the first generation to get a high-level education in my family. And he and my mother immigrated and left me back with the grandparents. And they're still influential in my life today, even as they're gone. But when I came to the US, I wanted to be a doctor because I was, for whatever reason, I would fall ill often enough as a young child with my grandparent. And I appreciated the care that, that they took of me. I remember one time I was sick, she had me on her back, the tie, and we were trying to get on a bus and they wouldn't let us because they saw that she had this ill person. And she just started walking until somebody saw us and picked us up. So I always wanted to just come to America, be a doctor, and go back to Nigeria and take care of my grandma. That was it. But I think it's important also to challenge your first impression of what you want to be. And I was good in science and math. I loved chemistry. And so when I went to Stanford, I decided to major in chemical engineering. And again, it's about looking around and seeing what departments kind of welcome you, support you. Stanford has something called Science, Engineering, Math Achievement Program. I still remember it. And what happens, you go to those large institutions, there aren't that many of you. And they went out of their way to pull us together, these students that were interested in science and math, that were of minority background, and we got to network with each other. We had professors that were kind of interested in our doing well and excelling in engineering or the sciences. And the chemical engineering department was particularly welcoming. I was walking down the hall looking for a major, and Professor Kirk, yes, literally, and Professor Kirk Frank looked out the door and said, "Can I help you?" And I said, "Well, my name is Kike, and I'm trying to decide between chemistry and chemical engineering." I ended up sitting in his office for about 30 minutes, and Stanford was great. If you say you wanted to do something, they put you in the thick of it. My advisor was the chair of the department, but still, I still wanted to be a physician. challenged that notion by volunteering with Family Caregiver Alliance in California, working with Alzheimer's patients, giving caregiver support. Interestingly, one of the individual whose family I work with was Professor Davidson, a professor at Stanford Medical School in neuroscience, and he had developed dementia. And we would go out, I would help just give Anne, his wife, some respite. And I found the relationship aspects of the individual learning from your patients. Those were things that kind of attracted me. And I went on into medical school here at WashU State in St. Louis. I love what I do because of the relationships. It's a privilege being a physician. People talk with you, share with you. If you love learning, it's an opportunity for lifelong learning. I have several patients where I say, I want to grow up and be just like you. Maybe in the way you relate with your husband, maybe in the way that you took care of your family. There's a lot of braveness that you see in people when they're facing challenges with their health. Again, with regard to science and technology, once you have your foundation, it doesn't leave you. Even as a physician, I believe I still carry my engineering thinking into how I problem solve with my patients, or even how I help in the administrative aspect of the industry. In problem solving, you talked about electronic medical records. Myself and a couple of physician colleagues, we actually developed a software that is very integral to how we operate our practice. And part of it is that experience in IT and that background in engineering. Right now, my greatest area of passion is kind of mentoring the next generation who's going to take care of me, right? And also kind of knowing the concern and the interest that I have for Nigeria, even though I left at age 7, is that so much wealth of human capacity immigrates, and we can't be in 2 places at once, but how can we still care for our loved ones back in Nigeria? And so I spend a lot of my energy trying to develop other young people in Nigeria, particularly working with youth entrepreneurialism and development. And so that's what those 2 entities are about.
It's a hard act to follow. Oh my gosh, I'm just amazed that I'm here, and just even as I sit here learning from all of you here. My name is Muthoni Musagali. I am an associate professor at Webster University. I have been there for 7 years. Prior to that, I was at SIU Carbondale, where I taught in the counseling department. As our MC said, I am a licensed professional mental health counselor. I'm currently on sabbatical. I've been on leave since January, and I'll go back to work in June. So I'm doing research and doing other things during that period of time. The one thing, so how did I end up here? I come from a small village in Kenya called Kagwe. Some people might have heard of it. It's infamous, but it's a good place with good people. And I taught high school in Kenya for many years. In Kenya, you get assigned to be a class teacher, and that's sort of like the homeroom teacher. I think that would be the equivalent here. And I was teaching at a girls' school, and I would have, I was in charge of a particular group of girls every year, and they would come to me with problems that I just felt really ill-equipped to respond to address. And I would talk with them, and then they'd be gone, and I'd be thinking, was that the right thing to say? Did I say something that I shouldn't have said? And I always felt very uneasy about my lack of knowledge. And so that pushed me to want to get to further my education and get a degree in counseling. At the time, that was late 90s. Counseling, there was only one university in Kenya that offered counseling. That was USIU. It was way beyond my reach. I couldn't afford to go to USIU. That's United States International University in Kenya. So I ended up finding school in Ohio, by the grace of God, because even the internet was very hard to access at the time. You had to go to the National Library and wait in line to get on a computer for half an hour. The internet was very slow, and just where do you begin applying? How do you take the GRE? How do you, there are so many things I didn't know. But somehow, by the grace of God, I managed to apply to this one school that the other thing I needed to find was a school that would give me a scholarship coming in at a master's level, and that's not, especially for an international student, that was rare at the time because I knew I couldn't afford to pay the tuition. So I found this school, Heidelberg University in Tiffin, Ohio, and I was very lucky. They offered me graduate assistantship before I left Kenya, and I had a job on campus as well, and some tuition waivers. So I came here, got my master's degree. My intention was to get that and go back to Kenya. But again, the field of counseling was very underdeveloped at the time. There wasn't really a place for me to go back to. So I was struggling. I was getting my degree and thinking, how am I going to go back and do this? But in the course of my master's degree, I decided to pursue a PhD in counseling education and supervision. Part of that also was, having come from Kenya, I had a very hard time relating to the problems that my clients presented with. I would sit in a session with a client. I was really poor. I was really struggling. I worked a factory job. I worked in an oil factory at night, and I'd come back and go to class. And my mother was sick. There were just many things happening at home that made my life very difficult at that particular time. So I would sit across from a client and I would think, why are you here? Like, your life is so good. What's really the issue? And I would keep waiting to hear why they had come, and I couldn't really relate. And I realized I couldn't do this. And that's also was part of why I went into a PhD, so that I could learn to teach. I could train people who wanted to become counselors, because I didn't feel that I could do it myself. That has changed, obviously. That, I think, part of the acculturation process. I am able now to just having perspective. It's not about whether I think their issues are problems. It's about how do they perceive their lives, right? And so I can do that now. But at the time, I think it's just part of the development process. Anyhow, I'll hurry up and get to the part of how I'm here. I went to the University of Central Florida and got my PhD in counseling education and supervision. I love that because it allowed me to sort of incorporate my passion for mental health with teaching, which is something I knew I had a lot of experience doing, and I also was passionate about. I love being a professor. It gives me such, first of all, you are part of the journey of other individuals, and you mentor people, and you see the results. It's just a gratification and sense of fulfillment that comes from knowing that you're shaping young minds, helping people develop. I look at, like, I saw Joseph and I'm thinking, oh my God, this was just a boy like a few years ago. And to see him on a panel here, that's what you do every day when you teach. You see kids, and then, 3 years later, 4 years later, they come and they're grown up and they're doing amazing things. And to think that you had a hand in that somehow, it's just really rewarding. So that I know I'm making a difference somehow, but I also value my independence. I don't do well with an 8 to 5, and I knew that that was going to be something that I wanted to have some leeway in terms of being able to develop my own schedule, and so that's one of the things I'm able to do. I love what I do. It just feels like there's lots of opportunities to do different things. And really working even with the community. I've since in the last few years, I've also started to see clients. It's not part of my job, but it helps me to be a better counselor educator because I'm working with clients as well. And so I continue to just be passionate about mental health. Every time I go somewhere, I want to speak about mental health, especially among the African community, because I feel like this is something that we have to continue talking about. So even as we speak about mentorship, I also want to just take a moment to plug the need for mental health awareness, that you cannot be successful in a career if you're not well, and mental health is health, and that we have to really be cognizant of that. So I'm happy to answer any questions and support anybody that has an interest in going that route. Thanks.
Hello guys, so my name is Joseph Mugo Morgana. Wow, Wow. So for me, as how I got into computer science, as a little kid, I always liked playing with toys or putting like Legos together. So I followed that passion. Can you guys hear me? So I followed that passion. I was like, oh, I like building stuff and I like messing around with stuff. So one day, I think somebody introduced me to like a computer game or something. And then first I like business. And I was like, I want to make a lot of money. And Sebastian knows that. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna build software in order to make a lot of money. Unfortunately, I didn't make a lot of money, but it got me into computer science. It got me into like building software to help people or to, like Sebastian was saying, you don't have to become a doctor or that you don't have to be the person that's like taking a shot, which I don't like. You can like build software to help that doctor. So that's how I got into it. And then as I'm still early in my career, I'm not a doctor yet, yet, but just I think one of the things that I took from I'm still learning is having a passion for something, taking your passion and applying it to something. So if you're, I don't want to wake up and I'm like, oh, I have to go to work. Like now I wake up and I'm like, I'm getting paid to do like what I already did before for free. So I just think finding a passion, finding your passion, and then applying that to your job.
Awesome. While you are there, I think someone asked a question here. Joseph, I think this might be a question just specifically. So, do you need to be a math wizard in order for you to be good at the field of, being a software developer? Do you need to take a lot of calculus and all those big mathematical, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, you can relate to that. So as far as that, in my experience, you don't really need to. It's not how like you think. Like right now, I'm gonna be taking calculus too, but I'm still a software developer. Unless you're doing like cutting edge, like MIT type stuff, you really don't need that type of education, or you'll need it, but you have teammates. Like you work with doctors that can help you out if you need to figure out a formula. You're in the meeting, and they'll be like, okay, Joseph, this is not your field, but I can help you out. And I can be like, okay, we don't know the technology part, and I can help you out on that. Math is still important because like you calculate money, you need to know how much money is in your bank account, adding, subtracting. But like for computer science, if you want to get a bachelor's degree, you have to go to Cal 3, I think, and linear algebra and all that. So you still need it for your degree, which is very important. Very important.
Thank you very much, Joseph. I would like, I don't know who is going to answer this question among every one of you, or maybe every one of you is going to answer it anyway. So there are top questions here that you guys have asked, and some of you guys actually kind of like some of them to say, hey, this one is very important. So according to the votes over there, the topmost one is, when did you realize that your profession is the right one for you? When did you realize that? Like, when did it actually happen to you? Right? Like this epiphany, wow, this profession is the right one for me. Happy I'm actually doing it. And then you feel so proud to tell everyone that this is what I'm doing, and I'm happy to be doing it. So when did you realize that? Anyone can give an answer. I might go around. Joseph, you want to keep started?
I can start it off.
Awesome.
My first time realizing that this profession was for me was my first paycheck. not the money part, but realizing that I'm getting paid, like I was saying, I'm getting paid to do like what like my little brother was telling me, oh, you're doing like what you like, but now you're getting paid. Because before he saw me programming, he was like, not like you're doing this for free, right? So when I started getting paid, it was that shift of like, wow, I'm getting paid to do something I would do without getting paid. So like that plus really affected.
I can't really say of one specific point. I think it's a particular type of experience that reminds me every day that I'm in the right place. Again, it's about relationships. I treat my patients like they are my sisters, my brothers, my parents, and medicine, it really is a privilege in terms of the intimacy of the relationship and the things that people share with you as you're trying to help them. And there's a great deal of learning. And as we're caring for our patients, they also care about us. And so I think there are a number of relationships that kind of remind me, I share one story, I call it turducken, and I'll share with people along the way. I had a patient, she passed, but what I admired about her, you talk about prevention. She was older and she didn't want to get a colonoscopy because she kind of accepted that if something happened, I'm okay. And so something did happen. But what I still grow from till today is just seeing how strong she was in taking care of her family, even as she was sick. And so it was around Thanksgiving, she was hospitalized. We were thinking about hospice, and we're trying to get her home to spend the Thanksgiving with her family. And she said no. They have a Thanksgiving thing they do, turducken, I think it's turkey, duck, and chicken kind of layer. I tried to make it once, it didn't work because of her, I tried to make it. But she refused to go home. And she also made a schedule for her family, whereby only one person at a time could come and visit her in the hospital during the Thanksgiving. And what she felt was, if I went home, the Thanksgiving would be about me being sick. If I allow all of them to come to the hospital to see me, then the Thanksgiving would be in the hospital. And so she still kind of organized her family and catered to their wellness and well-being. There are patients that I'll run into their children and we hug each other because there's a love that we both share about their parents and the things that we learn from them. You know, I have my shelf, I have the things that remind me. I have anointing oil, footsteps in the sand, the beautiful artwork done by patients, even just the eulogies to learn what your patients mean to their families. It's amazing, and you hope that you're as brave and as strong and as wonderful as the people that you meet every day.
That's awesome. I think for me, probably 6-7 years ago, I think that's when the place that I work, they moved into Epic, because I was caught up in IT, because they were paying more money in IT. And at my age where you have children, sometimes you might be caught up in what you really like to do and what's paying the bills, because things have to be done. You can like as much as you want to be in finance, but does it pay the bills? So I was caught up in IT, and I really didn't like just being tied up in IT, because there was nothing really that was finance, because I love finance and that's what I do well in. But then when the hospital now integrated Epic, Epic opened that space where my problem solving skills were now fully utilized in Epic, you know, where you're now solving problems using both your background in finance and now the IT aspect being integrated. So about 6-7 years ago, when that space was opened, is when I now figured this is it. This is what I like to do. And I know when I wake up in the morning and you have this doctor calling you saying, I am caught up in this, I cannot solve this problem because I can't see this patient who is in Oklahoma and I'm in St. Louis because of A, B, C, and D, and I'd like to be doing this in the next 6 months. So you have about 8 months to make sure that that happens. Then I realized this is now the field that I want to be in. My problem solving skills are fully being utilized. So about 6-7 years ago.
Well, I had two moments. When I very first started, I had a conversation with my dad and kept asking me, why didn't you just go into math and science? And so I started talking to him, and I was able to kind of trick him into a psychology conversation. And so I got him to start talking about his past, and before he knew it, he was almost in tears. And he realized, because I was trying to explain to him why the mind is important to me. Why? Because I always wanted to know, why do people do what they do? How do people end up where they are? And so after we talked about his past and his experience growing up, we were able to pinpoint one of my biggest discrepancies with him was why we're late for everything. And it turned out that as a child, there was just, he didn't like people necessarily telling him what to do. And so it just manifested into this thing about being late because he was going on his own terms. And so at that point, he told me, you might be really good at what you do. Because I got him to actually talk about that. And then the second time, I had, like I said, I've always worked with young people, and there was a client that was at the house that I was working at. It was like what do you call it, like a group home setting. So it was a bunch of kids kind of living together. And there was one girl who had beaten up every staff and had also attacked the men. And at that time, I was about my height, but maybe like 125 pounds. She was like 6 foot, 280. And the other staff ran out, and I was the only person in the room with her, and she was walking towards me, and I was like, about to get beat up. And so I looked at her and I was like, Christina, I'm not doing this today. And she yelled at me, and she would never know. I was literally praying while she's yelling at me, like, Lord, don't let me get beat up today. I don't want to get beat up. And I told her, I said, you know what? And I said it just like this. I said, it's going to be okay. And she started sobbing and crying. And then the staff who left me alone rushed back in because they thought that she had beat me up. They heard the crying and they thought it was me. But she actually just fell on top of me and started hugging me and just telling me everything that was going on with her. And I was like, I might be good at this because I didn't get beat up that day. So it was those 2 moments that I knew, I think this is the field for me.
Thank you everyone for sharing your experience. I think for me, I do have 2 phases to my career, so I'll share experiences from both phases. As a clinician, just working as a clinician, the moments that made me realize that this was what I wanted to be was when you saved lives and you could see family members and other people close to the patient really appreciating the service you provided, going out of your way. Most of my training was in Nigeria, given the limited resources for clinical work, seeing how you went out of your way to ensure that their family member was saved or was alive. So those were really gratifying moments. And the second phase is as a physician scientist. A lot of my work now, there's minimal clinical work, and a lot focuses on research, how to prevent cancer and how to make lives of cancer patients better, develop new therapies for cancer patients. And I think probably one of the most gratifying sessions in my life as a physician scientist was taking something that we developed in my lab. And my lab showed that a particular biomarker called the RANK pathway, the receptor activator of nuclear factor, is really related to increased breast cancer risk, especially in young women. Usually research in the academic settings, you do your research, you publish, and it ends there. But one thing that we have done in my lab, which has been very different, is we've taken that finding to a translational aspect. So we now have a clinical trial, phase 2 clinical trial ongoing to see whether if you target that pathway, whether you can reduce the risk of developing breast cancer in younger women. And it's received a lot of attention. So for me, that shows that, okay, well, what I'm doing, it has a translational and a public health significance. And that's how I know that I'm on the right path.
Okay, Doctor, while you're still at it, I think there's a question that might be related to what you're talking about right now. And the question goes thus: cancer is so rampant currently. How can prevention knowledge and strategies be learned or assessed by the common person who is very inexperienced? How can they get to know a little bit earlier? And not just knowing, but in a way trying to mitigate against it, but not even occurring in the first.
That's a great question. Cancer is the second leading cause of death in the United States now. And for many cancer types, the age of onset is actually reducing. For instance, colorectal cancer, we're seeing young people coming down with colorectal cancer. This has been on over the last few years. We're seeing the age of onset of people developing breast cancer reducing. Now you see breast cancer in women late 30s, early 40s, even among women without a family history of breast cancer. So yes, cancer is a leading cause of death, but we've also made a lot of strides in understanding what causes cancer and how we can prevent cancer. We know that genetics plays a lot of role, but we also know that a lot of lifestyle factors that increase the risk of cancer, and mitigating against those lifestyle factors will reduce a person's risk of cancer. For instance, we know that obesity, which is increasing at a rapid pace in the US, is a leading cause of cancer. Obesity that has been, having a BMI greater than 30 is associated with 13 cancer types. So by keeping our body weight in check, by having a very good diet, we're already going a long way in reducing our risk of developing cancer. Physical activity, we know, also plays a lot of role in reducing a person's risk of cancer. A person who is active 45 minutes a day for at least 5 days a week has a 35 to 50% reduction in the risk of 10 different types of cancer compared to someone who does not engage in such activities. So that's also very well known. One major risk factor that drives or that drove cancer incidence increase over the last few decades has been cigarette smoking. Lung cancer is the leading cause of death worldwide and in the US, and lung cancer is mainly a smoking-related cancer. So efforts to reduce lung cancer would need to tackle smoking. And we know that younger people are picking up smoking. There was a decrease in the incidence of smoking in the last 2 decades, but younger people are beginning to pick it up now. And unfortunately, people are substituting smoking for flavored e-cigarettes. We don't know the impact of e-cigarettes on cancer. So that's an area that I'll encourage young people not to go into. Screening is very, very important for many cancer types. And we know that women who undergo mammograms get their cancer picked up early. And once you pick up a cancer early, the you can survive, it can be dealt with early and you can survive the cancer much better than when it's picked up late. For colon cancer, colonoscopy or other screening methods would also pick up the cancer early. For cervical cancer, it used to be screening, but we now know that HPV vaccine works against preventing cervical cancer. So yes, there are several things you can do to reduce your risk of cancer. Screening is a wonderful way to reduce when you get to the right age. Adopting lifestyle factors that have been shown to reduce the risk of cancer are also really important ways to do. And also avoiding alcohol as well. Alcohol intake, especially when not taken in moderation, increases the risk of certain types of cancer as well.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much, Doctor. I wanted to kind of ask a follow-up question in that very line of cancer. And this person is kind of a little bit personal for her or for him. I don't know who the person is. It's very anonymous. So when you're asking the questions, it becomes anonymous. Okay, so feel free to ask more if you have any. The question is the thought of cancer and seeing how many people die of it, certainly being in the person's family is so scary. So prevention is crucial. but how can prevention strategy knowledge be assessed by everyone in the community? You talked about different ways by which one could go about preventing this, critical situation, health situation, but how can they assess it publicly?
Another great question. There are actually quite a lot of resources that are available. I know that these are not always accessible, so sometimes we have to do a little bit of checking ourselves to really engage ourselves with the knowledge. At Sightman Cancer Center, we have an 8 ways to prevent cancer website that is accessible to the public, where you can see the things you can do to reduce your risk of cancer. So if you have access to the internet, I'll encourage you to go on Sightman Cancer Center website, and I'm not sure where it is, but there's a section called 8 ways to prevent cancer. And people who adopt those 8 ways have a much lower risk of developing cancer. There are also other resources by the National Cancer Institute, which is the largest funder or the largest funder of cancer research in the world. The site can be maybe intimidating to navigate, but it also provides you with clues on what to do. And there are also a few other community events. In my own department at WashU, we do community engagement and community activities to increase knowledge on cancer. If a community is interested in knowing more about how to prevent cancer, I'm happy to get that information, talk to our folks at Sightman Cancer Center and my department at WashU so that we can organize a community event to educate the community members more. We do this sometimes.
Thank you very much, Doctor. Next to you, Dr. McConnell. A very precise question. What made you go into the mental health field? I think she already answered that long ago when she's talking about our passion, correct? Or would you like to express more on that very angle? And how do you really embrace risk taking as a professional in the health sector, knowing that you currently, over time you meet people who are desperately in need of help, but they have critical mental issues. That's a lot of risk. So how do you embrace that very risk, and how do you try to make sure you're in the right place to be of help to them, and at the same time try to keep yourself from harm's length? How do you do that?
How do I embrace risk taking? Well, the very journey coming here was a huge risk, right? I think there's just the knowledge. I have a thing on my, how you have a signature, sort of a line on your email. That's sort of like your byline. Mine says, I get to where I'm going by living where I am. I cannot go there if I'm still here, right? I have to actually get up and go there if that's where I want to be. And that requires risk. So I think it's the knowledge that even in mental health, when you work with clients and you're talking about changes that people can make in their lives, sometimes we sort of get comfortable even with the dysfunction. You might have problems, but it's familiar, it's comfortable, it's what you've always done. And making changes calls for you to leave that which is familiar and do something new that is scary, right? Even though that's probably the thing that will help you get better. So I don't know that there's really any other way to say other than that you can't get there with still being here. That in order to get there, you have to leave here. And so that requires embracing the unknown. And I think that's one of the things that we teach a lot in the counseling programs. A major factor, and I think it's also important just in life generally, is to be able to sit with discomfort, to embrace ambiguity, and to embrace the unknown. I don't have to know for sure what's gonna happen, but I can take steps right now to mitigate risk, you do that in in the financial sector, in all other kinds of things, you mitigate risk, you identify what are the risks that would be, like what are the potential risks, and do those outweigh the potential benefit? Am I uncomfortable enough in my current situation that I am willing to risk doing something different? And oftentimes that would be the case, and then you go ahead and do that. So it has to be a way of life, I think. People who sit in a place of comfort, you don't really get much done. You other than just sort of, my mother used to call it a vicious cycle. You're always in the same place. And in order to expand your horizons, to do more in whatever aspect of life, I think generally like risk-taking has to be a way of life, and also being comfortable with failure to an extent. That failing, there's so many lessons. If you just look up on YouTube, there's tons of talks and TED Talks about failure and the lessons to be learned. And so that you're looking at when you take a risk and something doesn't pan out as you would have hoped it does, that rather than see that as something that says, I am no good, instead of that, you look at it as, look at me, I was willing to try something. It may not have worked out the way that I wanted it to work, but what are the lessons that I take from this? So that as I go on to the next step, what am I taking? What knowledge am I bringing with me? So that failed venture was not a waste. In fact, it was a lesson, so that I'm taking those things and going on with my next venture, better informed, knowing what works, what doesn't work, and then I can craft my approach in a different way to account for the lessons that I have learned from that experience.
Okay, while you're still there, sorry, yeah, and also you can also do a follow-up on that, the next question I'm trying to ask, okay? What are the things in your career that you regret not having done early as you climb into your career from the start? What are the things you're like, hey, you know what? I should have done this. I should have done that. And you never did. And now you're feeling like, oh man, I wish I did this. Yeah. What are those?
I can think of very many things that I wish I had done earlier, and things still that I wish I had done. So one thing that comes to mind very easily, when I got my bachelor's degree, I wanted to go on and get a master's degree, but I kept pushing that off because I was terrified to take the GRE, the graduate record exam. So I kept looking for schools that did not require the GRE. And this was again in the 90s. I spent about 7 years looking for a school. It sounds so ridiculous to think of it now, but I really truly spent about 7 years looking for schools that did not require the GRE for admission into a master's program. I even considered applying to go into another undergraduate degree just so that I could get around the GRE. So I would get a second bachelor's degree. And when I took the GRE, again, didn't have a lot of prep, but I was amazed. I did outstanding. I had like really great scores. And this was after putting it off for 7 years and finding all ways around it. And I imagine if I had just had the courage and trusted myself more, right? And not been so afraid of that failure. If I had taken the GRE and not done well, it would have just meant that I would have been better prepared. But remember, I was in Kenya. My salary was about $100 a month. So even registering for the GRE, that was a huge undertaking. So I didn't have the option to test and retest. But I do wish I had had the courage to do that a bit earlier. When I graduated with my master's degree, again, because of my aversion to actually doing counseling work, I didn't pursue licensure. I did not pursue licensure. I wanted to teach. I was terrified of doing counseling. It's hard work, to be honest with you. You sit with people, you don't know what people are going to bring. And some days you have sessions that go, at the end of it, you don't know whether you don't know, right? But you just have to be persistent. So I didn't get licensed until about 4 years ago. Even though I was qualified, I had the academic qualifications, I had the preparation, but again, no, I had taken the exam that you need to get licensed, but I just didn't put the paperwork in because I didn't want if I had done the paperwork and I was a licensed mental health professional counselor, then I would have no reason to not do it. So I didn't until about 4 years ago. And I just started seeing clients about 2 years ago. And I keep thinking, oh my gosh, I'm really enjoying doing that. And I wish I had done that earlier. So yeah, I do have regrets. I wish I had done that sooner. And here I am. But I'm enjoying it now, a lesson learned, so that as I think about things that I want to do in future, which is very many things that I want to learn, I'm challenging myself a little bit more to be bolder and go for things when I think of something like to really actually pursue it and not sit around looking for shortcuts because there aren't really many shortcuts.
That is so profound, guys. That is profound. And the mic over to Mrs. Blake.
So I wanted to talk about the risk taking. One thing that I've learned, I always wanted to take risks, but what I've learned as I've grown older is to seek wise counsel. And so it's good to develop relationships with people you trust, adults or people who've been in the field that you're going in. So let's say maybe you don't know, let's say maybe you want to be a chef, but you don't know anyone who's been in culinary school. It's good to have people you can trust that know you. So, because sometimes you can think, oh, this will be a great idea. I can do this, I can do that. But if you have wise counsel, if you have people around you who know you, you can have conversations with them and kind of gauge the risk. And so I'll give you an example. Before I started my business, I was like, okay, I had these wonderful ideas, but then I asked my husband what he thought about my idea. I asked my mom, and I asked one of my mentors, just to see what the three of them thought about it, how they thought I would, because I'm thinking, well, do I leave? If this works, I'll just quit my job. And then my mom's like, no, you can't just quit your job. You need to, do all these other things. So it's good. I want to tell you as young people to value mentorship. Find people who you trust to speak life to you, because they'll be able to help you when you're trying to make decisions about where you want to go, even what school, what program. Sometimes we think we really know ourselves the best, but then the people we trust have another perspective. They can see us different than we see ourselves. So it's always good to have someone, maybe at least two people you completely trust, and they can help you as you're making decisions and moving forward with risks. One thing that I regret, or not necessarily regret, but I wish I would have trusted myself more. And so if you think that maybe you're interested in something, try it out. And like our friend here on the panel said, there's no such thing as failure. The only time you will really fail is if you quit. If you stop doing something because, oh, it's too hard. Oh, I don't want to do it. Laziness and quitting will stop you from achieving so much. You'll miss so many opportunities. When I was growing up, we didn't have the distractions of Instagram, Snapchat. Like, we weren't processing information 24/7. Your generation is processing information 24/7. And that can be a distraction. And if I'm honest, how many of you will agree? You'll get on Instagram and then it's 5 minutes, and then the next thing you know, it's been an hour. And you're like, oh gosh, where did the time go? You've got to learn to take the time and the opportunities when you have them.
Thank you very much. Yeah. While you're on it, Sebastian, if you don't mind answering this very question, a question popped up earlier about how you're going to advise a minor to invest financially. So maybe after you answer the one you wanted to ask, so you can go on.
Thank you. That probably, and it will kind of tie up with a risk assessment. Risk goes with premium. Risk with premium, but also there's what we call also the natural aspect, where as time goes by, as you grow older, irrespective of what you think the premium is, there are natural factors that now prevent you from taking bigger risks. And that more is probably for people like me, and I talk to Nganga, I tell him every day, those people who are in my group, I tell them that every day. At my age, There's some risks that I can't take, irrespective of how lucrative the premium is looking to be. Why? I have a son, I have a daughter, and I have a wife, and I have rent to pay. So irrespective of how good the premium is looking, there is a lot of unknown that I cannot get myself into because these other factors that I have to be met. So what does that tell you as a young person? There is open space for you. You have time. When you have time, the easier it is for you to take the risk because no matter what happens, you're able to bounce back because you have the aspect of time. Decision making is key, but you can't make decisions when you don't have goals because you're not making decisions based on anywhere. When you don't have goals, anything satisfies. So when you go to an exam, we live in a world where they want to make everybody feel good. So when they mark your exam, they don't give you the grade. No. See, when they don't tell you how you perform, then you're not able to assess yourself. So if at your age where you are, you don't want to take risk, part of the reason is because you don't want to find information. Number two, you don't want to get information from the right places. So you end up doing what's in Snapchat and what everybody else is doing. We live in a world where now everybody gets back into the keyboard and puts information out there. It's not verified information, it's not clear information, but we still have people, experts, who have spent almost 5 years just researching and making sure that the information that you need is synthesized and it's the correct information. If you went just a little bit back and pulled that information that is verified to do what you want to do, then it makes your job a little bit easier. Because now you'll be getting information that you can actually put into practice. Now, finances, people jump into it in the aspect of just making money. Finance is decision making, pure decision making, from the time you start to the very end. At your age, the first thing you have to decide is, when you wake up, what shoe do I wear? What outfit do I put? Finance is the same thing. If you are in college, the moment you get into college, or in your high school, and you're making any bit of money, I want you to start thinking about it this way. In most cases, I'll be paying rent, right? I'll be paying insurance, right? I'll be paying for my own fuel. I'll be paying for the car that I drive. Luckily, these are numbers that I do with these guys every day. I live with my parents, right? And I want to just give you the basics of how this would do. And if you miss anything from what I'm saying, the very final part that I want to talk about is compounding. And that's all I want you to remember from me is compounding. Because if you do mathematics where you are, you know what's compounding. So if I live with my parents, how much would I be paying for rent? How much would I be paying for insurance? Or how much would I be paying just for the food? Because now I don't live off campus, I live with my parents. If you start paying that money to yourself every month, my mom didn't ask for rent, my mom didn't ask for insurance, my mom didn't ask for this, so I'll pay it to myself to a compounding account. In 10 years, you'll have your down payment for your house. When you're done with college, you'll have your down payment for your house. And I don't say don't entertain yourself, please do, because there is enough premium on the money that you're investing. But what you do here is you take the risk of not looking cool when everybody else is. But guess what? 10 years we'll be laughing. You'll be the coolest. They were just cool. You'll be the coolest because you have the money. And that's all it is. Start saving your money by saving on the aspect that you're getting free now. There's nothing like free lunch in this country. So save the $2 right now that you'd have paid for rent. And by the time we get to college, you'll have money that will enhance you into the next level. So if you're not paying rent, save your money. If you're not paying insurance for the car, save that money. Start paying for it. I live with my daughter left and went to Colorado. She lives in Colorado right now. When she lived in my house, I told her, you'll pay rent, you'll pay insurance, and you'll pay for everything that you do in this house. So she complained. I mean, I probably complained for 3 years. 3 years complaining. But the time she left my house, you know what I did? I actually never used her money. So the time she was leaving, I said, hey, for the last 3 years, I actually didn't need your money. This is the money that you paid for rent. This is the money that you paid for. Do you know what she asked? Why did you make me pay more? Because she had enough money to get a new car. She had money to do all the things that she needed. But this is the process of saving that also parents also have to enforce. If they don't do it, some of these things you force them and they become it and they leave it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. There's a question someone asked in the crowd, the audience, and the person wanted to know if they can shadow work you or work at the office as an intern. And a follow-up question on that is, for those that are interested in the field, how would you say the balance between work and family or personal life has been for you? Especially someone who, medical field is really a very busy career. So how would you?
Okay, well, I'll answer the internship question. I do routinely have students rotate through the office, and I've had high school students shadow, as well as different health career fields. I recently had a social work intern. I've had nurse practitioners, medical students, even residents rotate through the office. During COVID, that was challenging, so we actually had a group that I call kind of the global health group, and I had about 10 students in different parts of the country that were working together and try to attach them to some of the initiatives at my hospital. So feel free to reach out. I'll tell you a little more. As far as kind of balancing life and work, I'm kind of not the best example of that. In a good sense, my husband is a physician also, and we work together. We live together. We're in the same office together. We're very good friends with each other. It's almost ridiculous sometimes. I'm driving to the hospital and he's calling. I'm like, didn't I just leave you? Nothing's happened between the house and 20 minutes. And it's not just him. I'm like that too. It's like, do you have any gist for me? That's our office. It's helped in that he's understanding. We both understand each other's schedules. It makes for part of the fun. I think one of the reasons I practice in North County is I saw how much fun he was having professionally in the environment that he was in. Our associates know each other, and sometimes they make mischief, like Kayong, is there really a reason why you have to ask me if my husband is playing golf? You're just trying to stir trouble in the house. So it's fun in that sense. We understand the demands. In the office, we have different last names, and so we're not always kind of introducing ourselves as married. Some of our patients turned that into a game. He was walking down the hall of the hospital one day, and one of my patients yelled out, "I know you, you're Dr. Anybody's husband." So it's like, it's this game. And again, it's relationships. I met one of my patients. Well, it was my patient. He didn't know that his wife was my husband. Because part of the balance that we did was with the kids, he would have clinic in the morning, I would have clinic in the afternoon. So that meant, I was rounding in the hospital in the morning, but if anything happened with the kids, one of us always had the flexibility of picking them up from school or things like that. So we were kind of used to that balance. I think healthcare has changed some in the last few years, become a little bit more intense. I can feel that my kids definitely kind of recognize that in terms of the EMR is great, but then now sometimes people seem to expect that you get up at 2 a.m. in the morning to put an order in the computer. I don't do that. I'll prefer to have a conversation with my nursing staff and whatnot. I think that your children definitely do understand the level of commitment that your work entails, and it's just important to prioritize and always block the time, I think, for your family's needs.
Thank you very much. And Dr. Ngali, there's a question here I think you kind of raised a little bit of it, and I think might be good things to kind of like dig deep a little bit into it. How did you keep going when faced with numerous challenges when pursuing your passion within your career? How do you keep going because youth today, we have a lot of challenges as well, right? You have peer pressure here and there. You have challenges maybe coming from the minority in terms of social economical status. So how do you keep going despite all of that? Especially coming from a different country and coming down here and being who you are today.
That's a great question. I think that's why everyone on the panel has talked about passion, and really, and a clear sense of what you want. You might not know exactly what it is, but knowing that you want something good for yourself, something better, that you're not satisfied. So I think of it almost as a restlessness, that I'm not satisfied to settle, and that puts you on a quest to always want to do more, to do better. And that way, you think about keeping your eye on the prize, so that whatever obstacles you encounter, that you have a purpose, and that you're not going to be deterred by those challenges. Because let me tell you something, I was thinking about, as people were talking here, like some of the really important things is when those challenges occur, it's the world, the universe, people in your life closing the door. But you cannot close the door on yourself. You have to be about opening doors. And sometimes, I've seen memes where they're talking about, you don't just open a door, but some doors need you to just, whatever it takes, you're gonna have to get a lot of force to force those doors open and walk right through them. So just because something seems hard, because something seems challenging, doesn't mean that it's not doable or that it's not worth doing. That which is worth doing, you will do at whatever cost. So that requires you to know and really be passionate about it. I talked about the journey coming here. I encountered one of the things that happened when I was getting my PhD. My mother was very ill. She had breast cancer. That was 2005. And I was in a doctoral program. I had just had Janet, and I had to go to Kenya to collect my research, my data. And while I was there, my mother passed away. So I came back after burying my mother, and I came back with my data set in a folder. And I think because I had been running around, collecting my, doing my research, doing my interviews, I had not really processed my mother's passing. And I was just busy doing things. I was planning a wedding. I was doing a lot of nonsensical things. I don't know how I thought I could do all of those things all at once. So I came back and my data set sat there. For months, I did not even open that folder. I didn't touch it. And I just busied myself being a parent to my baby. And I knew time was, the clock was ticking, because my classmates were going to graduate. We had a class of 4 in my doctoral cohort. And one day I heard one of the girls, who I thought was my good friend, I heard from somebody that she had said, as they were thinking about who was going to graduate the following May. My mother had passed away in October. I came back to the US at the end of October with my data set. This girl, Heather, said to another girl that I wasn't going to graduate in May. Oh my gosh, how dare she decide my fate? When I heard that, it was insane. It was almost as if Heather had lit a fire under me. Like, how dare you decide that when I'm gonna be done? So that was one. Then I also knew if I didn't graduate at the time, my scholarship was gonna end. I'd have to continue, I'd have to then be paying for my doctoral classes without the tuition waiver that I'd had. So there were several factors that combined. It was just like, first of all, I wasn't gonna let somebody else determine my fate and decide whether I was going to succeed or not. I also had trouble finding a nanny, someone to watch my child. And I kept looking for different people. I would have people come to the house so they could watch how well I wrote my dissertation. And it wasn't working out. And one day I decided, I have this child here. I have my data set, and this is all gonna get done. And I remember I always say that Janet, if I were in a lineup, she could recognize her mother by my knees or my feet, because she was little and I put her there and she crawled and I did my work. And I completed my dissertation in record time because I was not going to have someone decide when I was going to be done. So it's really like in those really difficult moments, you dig deep, you go back to your papas, right? And remember that you are the author of your story, that you cannot let other people write the story about you. You decide the narrative, you decide what it is you want and how you're going to do that, and you go ahead and do it. If you encounter challenges, like they say, surround yourself with people that will empower you, that will remind you who you are, will remind you what you're capable of doing, that will remind you in those moments when you doubt yourself. You don't want to surround yourself with Heather, who will call to your attention your shortcomings, your weaknesses, who will remind you of all of these challenges. You want to find people that will remind you what you're capable of doing. And that's who you surround yourself with in those moments, so that when you don't remember what you're capable of, you have people that can remind you constantly. That's your parents, your family, the people around you, your mentors, right? Because they know you. They have known you during the best of times, and they will see you through the hardest of times and remind you of your purpose.
Thank you very much. And just very quickly, there's a question for you. So at what age is it advisable for individuals to go into the software industry as a career? Like a very specific age? And while you're on that, I want to just ask a question, so that way Dr. Adetiji might just round up with us before Mr. Jeff comes aboard. So there's a question here, very, very, very serious question. I think it's also on the board. A lot of immigrants from Africa face tremendous mental health challenges, especially here in the United States. However, there are very few free services for them, like insurance and the rest of them. So how would professionals like you help? And like you, we're talking about those in the panel and those within the diverse community in St. Louis at large. So over to you, Joseph.
Okay, so as far as the age, it's any age. I don't know if you guys have seen like YouTube, and then there's those little kids like typing on the computer or touching the iPad. Like as long as you have the passion for learning something, you can start off. You can start with I don't know if you guys heard of code.org. It has like the little blocks, and then you can drag the code, you can drag everything, and then you can build like a robot that moves around. So any age, as soon as the kid can talk, give them a computer. Yeah.
So we're talking about the mental health?
Well, I think
Because I thought she would probably be a
yeah, I think
creator of
it's
stories.
kind of like a generic question, but coming from the angle of the mental aspect. The person is wondering, there are a lot of challenges that immigrants face whenever they come into a new country, especially in the United States. Challenges of insurance, challenges of this, challenges of health, and all of that. So how would professionals like you guys be of help? Also, yeah, we can also talk about the mental aspect of it. She's going to do it.
I feel there's a lot that we don't make use of in terms of social capital. The people closest to you, your family members, your friends, and even people within your social circle that may not be immediate family. I think we don't capitalize on how they can support us as much as we can. And the last 2 years has shown that there's a need to invest in social capital. So as an immigrant coming into the new place, I think one of the first things that I try to encourage people to do is to find people that you share the same ideals, people probably from where you are from, that are going to support you and show you what they have done to get to where they are, all the things they have navigated and how well they have navigated those roads to get to where they are. A lot of people have gone through, no matter where we are, no matter what stage, a lot of people have gone through it. So I feel making use of their experience to chart our course, it's always a very good thing to do. And one of the things I felt we're going to talk about was about mentorship as well. And I think that's those are people that you can really ask for support, education, academic and medical, and also social support as well. The important thing is to seek out. If you don't seek out, it's going to be very difficult to know what's available to us. So seek out, reach out, use resources like Nintendo Africa, use resources that are probably available online, use resources within the local community. And I know that a lot of people are willing to help because we've all been there. We've all been in places where we're the only one trying to navigate through the system, hitting our heads against the block, not knowing what to do. And anybody who has gone through that experience is willing to mentor other people, is willing to show other people how they've done it. So I think it's important to reach out. Don't be shy. I know that a lot of people, a lot of times we're shy because we're not sure what we're going to receive. But I tell people the first thing is reach out. If the people reach out do not respond immediately, don't take that as a snub. A lot of people are very busy. Sometimes I personally receive over 300 emails in a day. It's impossible to address all of them. So if somebody sends out, if you send an email to somebody that you see as a mentor that could be of help and they don't get back immediately, give them a nudge. People are willing to help. We must also do our part to reach out and ask for that help.
Yeah, so you can get a mentor.
Okay. Yeah, mentorship is very, very important. As I grew older, one thing I realized, I came to the States with my parents. But then as an adult, I have to think back, and I want you guys as young people to think about this. Can you imagine what it is to leave your home and go to an entire new country with new cultures, new language, new ways of doing things? It's a lot. And so community is so important. I'm not Kenyan, I'm Zambian, but we're all family because we're family. And so one thing I think that is excellent for everyone to remember is that as you grow, someone has made sacrifices on your behalf. So now, once you grow, you have the opportunity to give that back. And so it's the responsibility to me of the community. If I have resources, I need to share them. If I have time, I need to share them because someone has done that for me. And I think all of you guys, I'm sure there's so much talent in this room, so many gifts. I can't even imagine what all of you would grow up to be. But remember, someone made a huge sacrifice to give you the opportunity to be here. And so take advantage of that. Build relationships. Find mentors, find people you can talk to, because it's always good to give back to your community. I personally think it's the responsibility of all of us, the grown-ups and the panelists, to make sure that we're giving back, because that's what creates community. So no one ever has to feel alone. There will be, even if sometimes you feel like no one understands me, trust me, if you dig into your community, there will be someone that you can talk to.
Thank you very much. Yes.
Thank you. I think the biggest problem that we might have on our, not a problem maybe, but a challenge, it's disclosure. We don't talk about the issues that are ailing us. And I think one area that you're here as a youth that you can help our parents is to also understand their background a little bit. They come from a background where they keep quiet with things. Because part of it is the society they come from. They don't discuss issues for help because of the previous histories of what they have. That if they talked about their problems, most of the time they did not get help. People talked about their problems instead. So they're still caught up in that box where they don't talk about their problems because all they know about is to discuss their problems. So as youths, as who you are, how you can help them now is to kind of break, and I think you mentioned that, which was a very big thing, I don't know if people call it, where you brought your dad to a point where you broke him down to where now he understands that we have resources. As youth, this is one area that you can help your parents because of their background and what they're tied into. The aspect of not sharing. When you talk about problems to them, they do not want to share problems. They want to solve them internally, and they don't have the capacity nor the resources. Vitendo for Africa offers almost any other aspect that you want to reach into. If you wanted to reach to Dr. Modoni, if you wanted to reach to any of the people here, they have other people they can connect you with. But then because of where you are and the age and the stage of life you're in, you're probably not able to access those services, but your parents become a barrier based on what they carry with them from, the places that you come from. So as young adults and youth, help them understand that we have the resources. It is not, when you care about it, they talk about it and you get help. If I talk about I need 300,000 and you speculate, everybody knows Sebastian needs 300,000, then I get it. What do you care? I don't care, I got it. So you talk about it, but I got the help. That's what I want you to approach it from that perspective. Let them know you have the resources. They can talk as much as they want, but you got the help. I tell you, 5 years from now, you'll have gotten the resources, but you have a responsibility also to help the parents transition to this era that we are in, where we access resources for help.
Guys, please a round of applause for them. This is really, really, this is magnificent. Thank you very much, panelists, for coming and gracing our occasion. It is really wonderful to have you guys here. Very thoughtful, advice. I believe everyone here has got it. If you haven't learned anything, I learned a lot. Believe me, I've been blessed. I've been blessed. It's a blessing to meet this wonderful people. Years ago, if you've told me I'm going to meet this great minds, I would have doubted that. But today we're here. So you make use of that opportunity now, okay? If you don't have their number or their email, you might ask, bro Jeff, Jeff can say, hey, you know what, this is the best way to reach out to them because he has been in touch, quite often. So reach out to Vitendo for Africa team. The team is back there. They have flyers. They have things that you can actually use to reach out to those people. We want to also give a special thanks, to you guys. So we will have the Vitendo for Africa team come over while they make a presentation of gift. Just to show that sense of we be grateful for all you've done and all you're still doing for the immigrant community and for, just like we said, helping us to chart that very uncharted course into a brighter future. Thank you very much. So guys, thank you. I wish we had that song like, we are the champion, stuff like that. Thank you very much. Okay, awesome. So, awesome. So who is taking the picture? Yeah. Okay. So we're going to call upon Mrs. Lily Blake to come over as we present this very wonderful gift as a token of our appreciation for all she's done for the St. Louis community. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, we're going to call upon Dr. Mungali Muthani. Sorry, Muthani. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We're going to call upon Sebastian to come over. I told you he has a wonderful smile. Thank you very much. Sir. Thank you very much for that financial advice. Okay, we're going to call upon Joseph, the program. We need to talk, okay? We need to talk. Thank you very much.
Okay, Dr. Atunji, I'm going to call upon him for his wonderful time and out of his busy schedule. Thank you very much, sir. Okay, we're going to call upon Dr. Kika Lemon to come over, please. Thank you very much, man. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you very much, guys, for the wonderful time. We have one more. Do we have any? So this one is for Daniel. It's a surprise. So let's appreciate him. Let's give him a great clap for moderating. So Jeff, I want you to present him with a gift. We're just about to close, then we go for surprise. So thank you. Thank you very much. So thank you, our panelists. You may take your seats. Thank you so much. We just have 15 more minutes, then we close. Yes, so before I invite Jeffrey to come and close our mentorship, I hope we all filled in our raffles, okay? So there are a group of people we really want to appreciate as Vitendo for Africa. They've been really supportive towards all of our projects, all of us. And it's our parents. Some of them are here. Let us see our parents. Just wave at us. Let's clap for them. They've really been supportive. They've been dropping you guys to our different locations. So on behalf of Vitendo for Africa, I'm sure Jeffrey will mention that. I want to thank you, okay? So we all filled in our raffles. I want to invite one of the parents to just come and pick our one winner. So the winner gets a date at Starbucks, okay? So just pick and you can name that person, okay? All right.
The name is, my name is Nicholas. I'm one of the parents here. I have two of my kids here. And I want to announce the winner, and this is Tuji Tonola.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah. So we have the Moipei triplets. How many of you have heard of the Moipei triplets? They're coming to St. Louis and they'll be holding a concert during Mother's Day. We want to encourage you guys to attend. Now we're privileged to get 2 free tickets, okay? So we have 2 lucky ones. So one of our parents on this side to announce one of the winners.
Hi everyone, my name is Winfred Kenyua. I am Chelsea Kama's mom, right now. All right, and the winner is Janet Musambeli.
All right, Janet, we'll give you the tickets later. All right, a parent from, yes.
So my name is Dorcas Kikonyo and Samuel's mom. And the winner is Kunie Ondadile.
Akule is a very great man. I like to give him an opportunity just to introduce himself and what he does as well.
So good afternoon, everybody. My name is Kunle Onodipe, and I'm actually an associate research fellow, and I work for Pfizer. And my work there is really to lead a group of scientists in making genetically modified cells that make new biotherapeutic medicines. So these are medicines that are made in living cells, living things. So we tend to make two types of medicines. One's chemical medicines that you can put in your mouth, like Tylenol and Advil. And the other type is biological medicines. These are like vaccines and other medicines that you have to use by infusion. So we make this by putting the genetic code into the cells and getting the cells to make the medicine for us. So I grow bugs. I'm a microbiologist. So my job is really to grow bugs. There's a guy, a little boy across the road from me. He asked me what I did. And I said, well, I grow bugs to make drugs. So he calls me the bug doctor. So that's really, if you want to know what I do, that's what I do. So I'm really very pleased to be here, to be in your midst and to participate in this mentorship program. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Let us all clap for ourselves for being patient. We tend to keep time. We hope to end exactly at 2. We have lunch there. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our CEO, Jeffrey, to come and just
I give it a good clap for him. Thank you so much. I know I'm pretty tired and you've absorbed. I don't want to dilute anything that you guys have been able to receive, but I appreciate you for your patience, but also for coming. Being here is a great investment, and I'm sure I hope you'll be able to reap the benefits in due time. Thank you so much also for us. Give a good clap for him. Good job. I think you should keep it, right? Yes? Yes? Yes. Awesome. And then also thank you so much for our panelists. Thank you so much, my great friends. I was telling him that I share a lot of information, and I wanted him to share a little bit about that. He has a lot of information that I got from him and I shared to you guys. And also the people who are in college, they're looking for internship, also those who are in high school, they're looking for opportunities. Before you go, the networking part of it is actually, as we leave our it, please reach out to these mentors that are around here, because you don't know 2 years, 3 years from now, even if you're in high school, you might need them. So you start investing in that. But I would say I think we mentioned about the upcoming events, right? So one thing I would say that I'm proud of is as we sit here, there are things that are happening outside our community, outside within our young people. And I just got an email last week that 2 of our students that are here, they've been selected to be receiving the Missouri Commission Award. Clap for them. This is a statewide awards they give, and I'll say, Janet, stand up. We're going to the Jefferson Capitol, and Anne, stand up. Anne is my first one. This is my daughter. So they will be going to Jefferson. Thank you so much, Sina. They're going to Jefferson. And I think the people who received that award before was Sally, right? Yeah. Yeah, she got received before when she was in high school. So there are so many opportunities that are there and also telling you that the state will have a meeting, I think next week, that they will be helping up to come to be part of our mentorship program. So the state actually, after that conversation we had with them, they will be venturing and working with us. Is that a good thing? It serves the club. With that, I would say we want to reach out every African immigrant, African refugees. And it doesn't matter, as long as you have good scholar and you're from Africa, your brothers and sisters, like you say, please, if you're in school, reach out to them, tell them about this program. And also let's see how we can be able to build and invest, and build the future of our community. We're so excited, like Patrick said, we're gonna see the governor of Missouri on June 16th. We're keeping our fingers crossed, but it's almost confirmed. We're gonna go in his house. The governor's palace, we're going there. So if you have not signed up, if you're not put your name there, make sure you put it in there. Some of these privileges come also because of your active participation, coming here, attending our meetings, participating in different forums. Those are the benefits that comes with it. But I think as I finish, I wind up, I think Dr. Githinji has something that they do with the Black, this college that they're doing in summer. Things I would say we can, take a word.
Hi guys. Yeah, my name is David Githinji. I'm the father to Frank Kanko there. I'm not here as a parent, but I teach at Lincoln University, and I also do some research with the Secondary Zoo. So Lincoln University is what we call the historically Black colleges and universities. So for those who are looking at making a little savings and getting your bachelor's degree, for those who are looking for something to do in the summer, and you want to work for a conservation-oriented institution, you can work for the Secondary Zoo. They are global leaders in conservation, and because we do work with them in the area of conservation, then we can recommend you, and you can spend some 3-4 months working for them, and you get your name out there. But the session that has just ended was a good session. I personally enjoyed. You might think that you're the only people who are learning, but even parents are also learning. Can you clap for us? Yeah. The session was not for you students. The session was meant for the parents also. So the next time I'll also be here because we are learning a lot, okay? Every day is a learning day. Are we together? Can you tell your neighbor, every day is a learning day? Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, Dr. Githinji. We have come to the end of our mentorship program. So thank you once again. Thanks, Joe. Good to see you. So for lunch, we have some sandwiches there. So feel free to go there, grab something, and just sit around the table or network, okay, with the mentors. They'll still hang out for a few minutes. Okay, there are some resources on that table. Please feel free to pick one, register, and it will be nice to have you in our programs. All right, so thank you very much. Our DJ Greenspan.